ethics provide principles or value system for what? For what the principles are given? To identify, for us to choose what is good, to identify goodness or good, to identify right and choose that. We should be able to distinguish between good and bad. We should be able to distinguish between right and wrong. But how do we know this is right and this is wrong? How do we know that this is good and that is bad? And now the principles are given that can be followed by what? Now, certain things are good for me, may not be good for you. Whether should I choose that? Yes, it's good for me, but may not be good for another person. What will we do? Usually I choose my goodness, is it not?
Yes.
That means I am inclined to, my tendency is to choose such kinds of things that are actually giving pleasure or interest for me. That is the thing I choose. If it is against the spirit of common good, then we should leave it. We should sacrifice my interest, my good. That would be the ethics would give, ethical principles. And principles gives, for example, ethics refers to the principles, values. That means what kind of worthful thing, what kind of meritorious thing or importance we can follow, values. Then belief. Belief means, what do we mean by belief? Belief is a personal conviction. A belief is a conviction. It is not because somebody gives. I believe. I believe. We have got many reasons for believing. With all those things, I consider that in difficulty, if some of the people are suffering, it is my duty to help. There are some people consider that every living being is very unique and to be cared, and they go around and saying, what's on caring street dogs. Yes, street dogs. Now the people are there. That means taking what's called attending to snakes. For example, nowadays in our area, if snake is seen, immediately tendency is to kill. Instead of that, you call them, they will come and catch the snake, live in the forest. If a person is not choosing what is better and voluntarily chooses, or sometimes when unknowingly choosing worst thing, most of the cases we attribute as psychological aberrations, mental aberrations. This we call it deviations. They are not regular, they are deviations. But most of the time we voluntarily, knowingly do wrong things, bad things. But what bad things? So for example, do illegal things when we have got some gain. That is a personal, that means to me, but not for everyone. In general, this common goodness, that idea from where we get? From where we get that this is the common good, for this is the good for everybody. From where do we get that idea? Traditionally, if we understand, we get it from customs or customary morality. From what is practiced around. Customs. That is, customs are practiced by a community. Mostly they are practiced from tradition. Those customs are accepted, approved and appreciated by every member of that community. Customs are good, and that's why it is very difficult to change custom. It is very difficult to change custom. We also may know that this custom is not good, yet we will not open our mouth, because that too, it is actually a belief system of so many people. If something, a serious thing takes place, and in the society or community, generally one fellow is targeted or something, people immediately will say, no, this is not just. People are inclined to say, this is not just, this is not fair. From where that idea comes? From where a community usually speak. Especially if I am offended, immediately I say, what is called, no, this is not right. But when I am offended or when I lose, when I say that no, this is not fair, is understandable because personally I am affected, my interest is affected or my goodness is affected. But when I am affected, you say that no, against you what is done is not right. From where? Because you have nothing to lose. But by seeing something that is bad happening, everybody has got a tendency to say, no, this is not good, this is not fair. What is that? There is a natural inclination for man to seek his or the goodness. It is actually a common tendency. But what is moral is more concerned with the principles of good and bad. Second thing, for what it is given for us to choose in our action what is right or wrong. In our action, what is good or bad. This is again a step can go. It is not only in my action. In the public action too. In the common sphere too, or the public sphere too, I shall consider whether these principles and the practice, whether it is going well. Are they synchronizing? If there is no synchronizing, if they are not getting along with the conflict takes place. Conflict is good for what is leading to us to further reflection. And that reflection helps us to change. So, second paragraph deals with, it is a branch of philosophy. Ethics is a branch of philosophy. Then what's called deals with the moral principles, addresses questions about what actions are permissible and admirable and what duties people owe to one another. This moral principles, earlier we have seen principles. This branch we consider as a philosophy. What is actually philosophy? Asking fundamental questions. Is it not? Fundamental questions regarding or connected with the moral context. Regarding ethics only we are dealing. In ethics, we are asking certain fundamental questions connected with the ethical behavior or conduct or my action. What is that fundamental question? Good people suffer. Why should I suffer when through some other means if I can prosper, why not I? Why should I suffer? For the good of everybody, why should I suffer? If we ask such a question, it becomes a fundamental question. Because our experience, to an extent, the people also many times say, if you do fair things alone, we cannot survive in the world. Generally, ethical principles have got a public appeal. That's why again we claim as a moral. For example, certain things are just, certain things are fair, certain things are good. All those things we are able to say because a common acceptance is there. What's called certain people are in trouble, helping them is good. It's a general acceptance is there. Society sometimes would appreciate it because in generally society is guided with that. There may not be any problem. But in the cases like discrimination or certain kinds of customary practices like in olden days sati, in such cases what's called a conflict arises. Because acceptance or public acceptance and the what's called the reflective or individual reflection on that is conflict. But what is moral is more concerned with the principles of good and bad.